These are the directions for workplace 2C target practice. Each pair of players needs one spinner. If you don't have a spinner because you're playing at home, you could always use a pencil with a paper clip. That works great as a spinner. You need 2 target practice record sheets that you have in your workplace journals, and then pencils. The first thing that you need to decide is who is going to be player 1 and who is going to be player 2. Player 1 is going to spin the spinner twice. They're going to spin spinner 1 and then spinner 2 and record all 4 numbers that they have spun. So, I get a 6 and a 6 and a 4 and a 3. So now I am going to record all of the numbers that I spun. I got a 6 and a 6 and a 4 and a 3. Now on my record sheet, I am going to choose 2 of those numbers to create a unit fraction with. And a unit fraction, remember, is a fraction that has the number 1 as the numerator. I want to take both of my fractions and add them together to get a sum that is as close to 1 whole as possible. So I know that if I add, I think I'm going to add 1/3 plus 1/4. And I want my sum to be as close to 1. So now I need to try to add my 2 together. Well, I can think of, my denominators are 3 and 4, so I can think of those like the clock, right? 1/4 I know is 15 out of 60. I'm going to transfer them to clock fractions. And I know that 1/3 is 20 out of 60, right? And if I add those together, I know that I get 35 out of 60. Now I can simplify both of those fractions. I know 35 and 60, what's their greatest common factor that they share? 35 and 60. 35 and 60. Caroline? 5. So if I divide 35 divided by 5, I know that I get 7. And 60 divided by 5 gets me to 12. I know that my sum is 7/12. Now I need to figure out what my score is. To figure out my score, I need to figure out how far away I am from 1 whole. What do I have to do to get there? How do I figure out how far away I am from 1 whole? I'm trying to figure out how far away I am. What do I need to do? What do I need to do? Maya?
Divide.
Not divide. Evan?
Subtract 1 whole and that number.
1 whole minus 7/12, right? What would a whole be if I'm talking about 12ths? Patrick? 12 12ths, right? So 12 twelfths minus 7 twelfths. I am 5 twelfths away. Now it's player two's turn. Player two is going to first check my work and make sure that I did everything okay. You guys are going to be player two. Player two, did I do everything okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now it's player two's turn.
Yep.
So, I'm going to spin for you guys real quick. You got a 2 and a 12 Ooh. And a 10 and a 10. Okay, now you guys need to make two fractions that are going to be close to, when we add them up, close to a whole, and they only have 1 as your numerators. So you can't use 10 twelfths. I know that's close to a whole, right? 10 twelfths plus 2 tenths, that would be very close to a whole. Can't do that. It has to be 1 is the numerator. So what do we want to do? What do we want to do? Chris?
1/2 plus 1/10.
Okay, Chris wants to do 1/2 plus 1/10. Now we need to add these together. How can we do that? 1/2 plus 1/10. Should we use time or money? Probably money, right? If we're still using something else, we probably should use money to help us. 1/2 is worth 50 cents. 1/10 is worth,
10 cents.
together we get 60 cents out of 100. I can simplify both of those to 6/10. I can simplify it even more. 3/5. Very good. Now I need to figure out how far I am from 1 whole, right? So how did we do it before? What did I do when it was my turn? I figured out what 1 whole was and subtracted, right? So what is 1 whole if I'm talking about fifths? Sophia? 5/5 minus 3/5 is, guys, help me out.
2/5.
2/5. Very good. Can 2/5 be simplified at all? Nope, we're good to go. Okay, so now we've each played round 1, right? Now my partner and I are going to look at both of our sheets and we're going to look at our scores. So 2/5 and 5/12. And together we're going to decide who has the smaller fraction. Smaller fraction. Change them into money or change them into time. Whatever's best. We have one with 12 as a denominator. Who has the smaller fraction? Whose fraction is smaller? Patrick? Your fraction? The 2/5? Why? How do you know? How do you know? How did you figure that out? What were you thinking? I just know, right? I just want you to explain it for everybody else who maybe didn't.
2 fifths is
We could make them common denominators, right? So what's a common denominator that we could use that 5 and 12 both would be able to get to? 5 and 12 are both factors of what number? 5 and 12. Giuseppe?
60.
60. So if I wanted to change them to a denominator of 60 so I could compare them, right? We'll do mine first. What do I have to do to the 12? I have to multiply it by how much? 5 to get 60. And then I do the same thing to my top, right? 5 times 5 is?
25.
25. Okay, so my fraction is 25/60. Now let's do yours. You guys need to go from 5 to get to 60. What do you have to multiply by? By 12. So you have your 60. So now you multiply your numerator. 2 times 12 is?
24.
24. Who has less? 24/60 or 25/60? You guys do. By like 1/60. So, nope, we didn't win just yet. Now, whoever has the least amount in round 1 is going to circle their number. Okay? If your scores are the same, it's a tie. Now, we are going to only spin one time for round 2, 3, 4, and 5. So if it was my turn to go next, I'm only going to spin one here. I get 2 and 4. Okay? I've got 2 and 4. And I still up here have 2 numbers left over that I didn't use, right? I used my 3 and I used my 4, so I still have a 6 and a 6. So now I would play again, and I would choose out of those 4 numbers, and I would decide which 2 fractions I was going to add together to get closest to 1. I would do my work here, then I would subtract them from 1 to get my score. My partner's going to go again, spin and spin. Use your 2 unrecorded numbers plus your 2 new numbers. Add your fractions, add them together, subtract them from one whole, get your score, and then we're going to compare scores. Remember, when it's time to compare scores, our scores, we might have to convert them to equivalent fractions before we can compare our scores. At the end, we're going to look at our sheets, and whoever out of 5 possible, whoever has the most scores circled is the winner. And that is how you play 2C target practice.